Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome to the video. Today we're going to be talking about Flesh and Blood and if it's worth collecting this game. I have been in the trading card game collecting world for about 25 years now. I started this hobby back when I was a little kid, around 9 or 10 years old, collecting cards like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and later on things like Yu-Gi-Oh as well. So when it comes to trading cards, I feel that I have seen the rise and fall of a lot of very good TCGs that didn't stand the test of time. And I've also seen some of the better TCGs succeed that are still around to this very day. Think Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, and the likes. So let's cover 5 points that every new Flesh and Blood collector needs to know before getting invested in this game. One of the things that surprised me the most when I started selling Flesh and Blood cards is how few people are interested in the first edition singles compared to the unlimited cards. As an example, I have had around 8 legendaries for sale the past year. 3 were first edition, 5 were unlimited. The unlimited ones all sold within a week or two, many times on the same day of the listing, but the first edition legendaries never sold. I have also won a significant amount of gold for promo cards such as adult and young heroes. Out of the 4 adult heroes and 3 young heroes that I put up for sale, I managed to sell 2 of the adult gold for heroes after several months of listing them. Both of them sold around €450 though, if I'm not mistaken. I will show it on the screen right now in post-editing. But I do think this is a huge indicator that the collectible aspect of Flesh and Blood is still extremely niche. Generic Majestics and Legendaries are always in high demand. Generic Majestics and Legendaries tend to go for a much higher price point. You see cards like Command & Conquer breaking the $100 mark, and this isn't surprising considering that you can find only 1 CNC in every 5 Arcane Rising booster boxes. While most decks need the card, the ratio of Majestics versus Legendaries is about 6 to 1 per Legendary. In the case of class-specific Majestic means that they will end up flooding the market rather quickly, but generic ones are always in high demand. Since so many decks benefit from generic legendaries such as Fiandal Spring Tunic, even though that one has been reprinted already, you will see that these will go for a much higher price point, and therefore if you have the option, it's best to invest in generic cards over class-specific cards, or to keep generic cards in your collection if you end up pulling them, because you never know when these will suddenly spike and can fetch you a premium. Currently, Flesh and Blood has around 15,000 to 20,000 active players. I estimated this by looking at the experience gained in the past 90 days and correcting it slightly for people that may not be joining events. While total player numbers don't really reflect actual collectors, I do think that it says a statement about the actual demand for the game in general. From my experience, less players means that there are less collectors. Compare this to games like Pokemon or Magic the Gathering where there are millions of players. It is not surprising that these games have a lot more collectors in it as well, and thus making it easier to find a buyer when you try to sell a collectible piece like a Dual Land or maybe something like a base set Charizard. Welcome to Raid, Arcane Rising and Crucible of War had very small print runs for their first edition prints. But I do think because there are such a small amount of people involved in the game at this point of time, it does mean that sets like Monarch and Tales of Aria will flatline for a while until we see the player numbers triple or even quadruple. Monarch and Tales of Aria will likely start going up again in the future, but that does mean for those that started collecting Flesh and Blood late, these are a good entry point with very low risk of losing your money. If you do buy into these sets, go for the first edition product. Flesh and Blood has a semi-reserve list. Some cards will never be reprinted. For those of you that don't know what the reserve list is, in Magic the Gathering there is a list of cards that will never be reprinted. Because of this, these cards are in high demand and sometimes go for prices in the thousands. Flesh and Blood is something similar because gold foils that are printed in a first edition product will never be reprinted as a gold foil in a future product. Because of this, cards like Fabled Cold Force can be as rare as something like a Black Lotus in Magic the Gathering terms, and fetch a ridiculous high price point. Especially Cold Force from the first two sets have such extreme low print runs that there are likely only a few hundred of each in existence. Compare that to an Alpha Black Lotus that had an estimated print run of 1100, and you'll realize that an Alpha print Heart of Fyendal is extremely rare. Even an Alpha print Legendary only has around 800 to 900 copies in existence, again making it rarer than a Black Lotus. Which is why these pieces are extremely coveted. A Fyendal Spring Tunic will be reprinted for many years, but Cold Foil, that boat has sailed long ago. So if you're interested right now with the whole Flesh and Blood bubble collapsing, it's probably a good time to pick some of these up if you want these in your collection for the future. The game aims for balance and playability. It has a good company behind it, and this is good news for the players and collectors alike. The design philosophy of Flesh and Blood is to make it a game that will last the test of time. But it also means, as a collector, there will always be a market for your game pieces. Currently the game has a very high focus on competitive play. While this is its strength, it's also a weakness because it slows down its growth by being less accessible for casual players. On top of that, the game itself is rather difficult for newer players to grasp, which makes it even less accessible. The company Legend Story Studios cares a lot about in-game balance though, so once people are invested in the game, I highly doubt we'll ever see a mass-scale player exodus like we have seen in many failed TCGs before it, and I think it will be around for a very long time. Would I get into Flesh and Blood as an investor if I could start over right now? My honest answer, actually yes. Of course I'm very biased because I absolutely love this game, the philosophy and the quality of the foiling and the cards, especially the Cold Force, but I do believe as a long-term collectible this game has a lot of potential. The company behind it has a solid reprint policy, stopping first edition Cold Force from ever being reprinted, thus making them very limited and collectible. And by the very nature of unlimited prints, they do make sure that there are plenty of reprints available for the players that want to play this game. Of course, some of the generic pieces are currently fetching a rather high price, which is stopping some people from getting into the game, but I do believe in the long run we will see more and more reprints of these cards, and thus making it a lot more accessible for newer players. It is a great hobby, and for long-term investing and collecting, I think Flesh and Blood is really a great starting point to get into, because this game is likely to stay around for a long time like I mentioned earlier, and if you get into it now, you might end up earning quite a bit of money in the long run. If you are in it to buy and flip for profit instantly though, personally, even though my highest selling Flesh and Blood cards sold for almost 10 times the amount that my other TCG cards have, the sales are excruciatingly slow. Because of this, despite the lower resale value that I made in other games like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, I ended up making more overall money than I have in Flesh and Blood. So I think it's only worth getting into Flesh and Blood if you want to flip and play at the same time. I'm basically doing the flipping as a way to kind of push down your overall cost playing this game. Decks in Flesh and Blood are rather expensive right now, and I think flipping some cards that you are not playing with yourself like I am is a great way to reduce this cost. Either way, I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you would like to support me, you could do so by becoming a patron or channel member. Alternatively, you could buy my amazing channel playmat over on my website kuganegaming.com. I work full-time on Flesh and Blood content, advice and coaching, so every little bit helps a lot and is a huge boon to keep this channel alive. With that said, don't forget to subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and I will see you all next time.